Okay,
Happy
guys.
Friday.
Okay, guys, look, you're in for a real treat today. Gene is the master
Of disaster.
the master of disaster. Gene is the master of repairing furniture. And so we get so many questions and tickets that people are like, how do I repair my veneer? I was like, honey, I need you to show them how to repair the veneer because they don't want to just paint over it without repairing it first. So I bribed him, and he's going to show us how to do this.
Still don't know what I get, but
All right, guys, so you're going to have to make Gene Howard feel good. Hey, Pammy, shalom to you. And make him feel good and share this video. So that way he's like, my videos do better than your videos. So you want to share them because sharing is caring. All right, so Gene's going to show you how to repair veneer today. And especially if you have somebody that loves to rescue and restore furniture, this is something that you don't see a whole lot of information about. So he's really going to help us. All right, so I'm going to turn this around like this and bring this over to the veneer on this drawer.
This is our star.
Okay.
And as you can see that if you look up here, you can tell this has been veneered because you can see a seam right there that lets you know this has a veneered facing over. Oh, I'm not sure what type of wood that is. It could be just some type of wood core that did not have an attractive grain. This was probably at one time when it was pretty, was probably some type of mahogany. So first thing we want to do, we want to get rid of our hardware so that we're going to work on this because ultimately I believe the master teacher wants to paint this. So we want to get rid of that.
I do want to paint this piece black, but I told them, I was telling Gene, you can't paint it with all of this veneer and stuff all janked up. Like, we've got to fix it. Hey, Vicki. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Marilyn. Hey, everybody. As you're popping on, please tell us where you're tuning in from. We've got the master today showing you guys how you can repair furniture. Oh, that's wild. Had you taken that off? Had you seen that?
No. So see, there's there's what it used to look like. And now there's several things to consider when you're repairing. One, this was a stained piece. If I'm going to take this back to a refinished stained furniture, then my repair is going to be a different technique. But because we're going to paint this, the repair is going to be more simplified because it's going to be a much easier repair. So as you see here, we've got some loose veneer. You can see right in there, and of course this piece there. So first thing we want to do though, we want to clean it because if we paint or any type of refinish.
So you're saying if they get it and it's got all this stuff going on, the first thing you're going to do is clean it.
I'm going to clean it because I want to get the
this is going to be fun.
Cleaning part out of the way.
Hey, Laurie, how much snowy Ohio? How much snow do you guys have? So you need a rag.
I'm sure we've got a rag.
Michelle, can we get a rag for Gene? So Gene's going to be using the clean slate.
So you can see all of the stuff coming off. This has probably been sitting.
Oh my gosh, this is too much fun. Oh, okay. I'm loving this.
Now, unfortunately, the clear coat
Can I see the bottom of your rag?
Has gotten so
nasty.
Old that it is literally crystallizing.
Okay, tell us, what do you mean by crystallizing?
Well, it's just kind of gotten more of a crystallized look to it because the finish is just
Can y'all see that?
Old.
Do you see that? That's what that's called. As far as crystallizing, it's kind of
what it looked like under the hardware and what it looks like now. And so this may have been just an old lacquer formula. It could have been a shellac that they used back in the days. This is probably back from the 40s.
Yeah, I bet that is shellac.
Could be shellac.
Because of the way it's crystallized or varnish, right.
Yeah. So anyway, so we get that out of the way. And First thing we're going to do, we want to repair the loose veneer. Now, you can use wood glue, which is what I like to do the best, but unfortunately, I don't know where my wood glue went off to. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use a quick dry gel glue and going to put it, I'm going to pull that back.
Be real careful because you don't want to pop that off.
I got to put some in here. Then I'm going to open this up and put some in here.
On that second?
That second layer. And then I'll take my rag with the clean slate and just wipe the excess off. You can see I've got plenty of glue. You see it kind of squeezing out. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can use a pinch clamp. You can use a bar clamp to clamp that down. If that was a bigger section, I'd want like a piece of plywood that I could have to cover
Sit on the front, because you used to do that.
Cover more.
But because this is so
square
small,
footage.
you don't have to?
Yeah, because it's so small, we don't have to. And if you don't have pinch clamps or a bar clamp.
Okay, now we got a smarty pants on here saying, couldn't you use a syringe or something?
You can use a syringe to get down in there. Also, you can take something.
So smart, so smart.
You can also take like a razor blade and push it down in there as well. Either one. I'm going to put a little more in there. Just kind of work that in.
Gene had all that stuff. I mean, like all of his wood clamps and his syringes and all that kind of stuff. But he's wanting to show you guys that that don't have a lot of these tools, and we don't want you just compromising and painting on top of something like this. We want you to be able to repair it. Laurie she said, no, I think I saw Gene do that on another video. That tape's not sticking.
You know what? It's going to in just a second.
That's some fancy tape you got, Gene Howard.
It's got somebody's name on it, I recognize. Isn't coming off now. There we go.
Well, that's kind of fun.
So that's how we'll tape that veneer down. And you noticed we had some veneer missing. And I'll show you in another place where we've got some veneer missing right here. Now the veneer's not loose. Well, it's not that loose. It's a tiny bit, but not enough that we're going to worry with it right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some wood filler. This is called plastic wood. I like the plastic wood because it just had the properties are a little bit better than your normal wood filler. And as you see, I'm going to just put some right in there.
Can they do that with their finger, or do you want them?
Well, I like using the putty knife because it allows me to get a smoother application of that. Of course, I'm having to do this a little differently. And you can see there's a piece missing here. If I wanted to, I could do the same thing and build this up with the wood putty. Again, this is called plastic wood. It's water-based. And this will dry, depending on how much you put on. If it's very thin, it can dry in 30 minutes to an hour. If you've got to put it on thick, it could take up to a couple hours to thoroughly dry. And then what I'll do is once that dries, I'll lightly sand it with some 220 grit and shape it to where it'll look just like that piece of trim. And if I don't have enough, I can put a little bit more on, let it dry, and just keep building it up as needed, lightly sanding until I've got that same profile of that trim.
I do have a question. As far as where we took the hardware off, there's kind of an indentation. What should we do about that? And as you were saying, as far as how it's kind of crystallized.
Well, again, you keep in mind that we're painting this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly sand that and smooth that up.
And you think that's going to be okay?
Mm-hmm. That's going to be great.
So then that way, if they've got veneer, most of the time the veneer is going to be popping away from the side. You're telling them just to kind of pull that away. If y'all are just now popping on, go back to the beginning where Jean was showing you how to do that. And then tighten it to be able to hold this. Somebody was saying gaffer's tape would be great for that too.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, or the pin, if you've seen the spring-loaded pinch clamps that you squeeze open and then when you let go it pinches down, those are great. Those are easier to use. If you have to use a bar clamp, they're a little more cumbersome, but that works as well. And again, if there was a much larger area of veneer that we needed to glue down, I would have a piece of plywood, a piece of 1/4-inch plywood, 1/2-inch plywood that would be cut to fit that area, and then use my clamp to clamp that down, and that piece of plywood would give me more pressure over that area. So I've got a nice tight bond when that glue dries.
All right, so now what do we do? You told us take your hardware off. Then you said to make sure that you clean it with a clean slate. We were able to see some of the crystallizing a little bit. You showed us how to do the glue in here to be able to hold it. We could use a syringe and then make sure that's held in place. You used the plastic wood to be able to fill the areas here. You told us to tell that, about how long does that need to dry?
You know, a little area like this might take about 30 minutes to an hour. Then building up this area where we used a thicker amount, this could take an hour plus before it's dry.
And then just sand that.
And then
out.
you're going to lightly sand it and shape it to where it matches the profile of that piece of trim.
Okay. And then what do we do?
So then,
Oh, he had a second drawer.
I've got his twin brother here.
His twin brother looked like it was having some problems.
So same thing. We can see we had some veneer that had to be taped down, glued and taped down. So I'm going to take that tape off.
Man, you had a lot of places that you had to do with this guy.
Yeah. So we had a lot of places. There was a split in the veneer. We had some pretty good sized chips here. Another split in the veneer that has all been puttied up and is dry. So now we'll take some light grit sandpaper. This is just 220 grit sandpaper. And we're going to start shaping this.
Do you always work with small sheets of sandpaper? Like a square?
You know, when I'm sanding a small area, I don't need a big piece of sandpaper. I just
cut
need
it up.
Just a little bit. And I like to, when I have it, I prefer cutting the sandpaper as opposed to tearing the sandpaper.
So guys, as you pop on here today, just tell us where you're tuning in from. We've got Jean, the master repair guy, showing us how to repair veneer on your furniture. Most of the furniture pieces that we are rescuing and restoring from the 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, they loved working with veneers because a lot of them were done in mahogany and cherry and
Yeah, it was much cheaper to use veneer than it was to use a solid piece of mahogany or solid piece of cherry or walnut for that matter. And keep in mind too, a little trick that once we get this smoothed out, you know, we're dealing with edges, and edges are notorious for getting bumped. When that gets bumped, there's a chance this could chip out. So what we're going to do is go back, and this is what we call softening the edge. I'm just going to sand that so that edge isn't so sharp. It's just very lightly rounded.
round it a little bit. We used to do that on our furniture.
It just made it to where it would be more difficult to chip that. The same here, this is on an edge, so I want to kind of go up and just lightly bump that too so that it's rounded. Then here, you see how we're sanding again, we had that little bit of an indentation where the handle was.
Mary says, wonderful info, Jean. Thank you, from Connecticut. Stay warm in Connecticut, Mary.
Very welcome.
So this could kind of scare somebody. Like, if they've never done this before, and you're saying this was a split seam, we see this all the time in furniture, that there's a seam all the way down.
So we'll just smooth that out. Same thing down here. We're just going to smooth out.
So guys, the first thing Jean did, you can go back and you can watch it from the beginning. Okay, let me see. There's a question from Wanda. So you don't have to put new veneer on the mist spots?
We just built the veneer up with the wood filler. And the wood filler we used, it's called plastic wood. And I like it because it has a little bit more give to it than normal wood filler, meaning there has a little bit of a elasticity to it. But it is water-based, so it's very user-friendly.
First thing he did was he took his hardware off, then he cleaned it with a clean slate, and then he came back and repaired the veneer. What?
Oh, there you go.
What?
Another piece of veneer popped off.
And that's pretty normal, though, isn't it?
It is. It's, as we're working on it. So what we would do is, when that does that, we can see if that is an area that is large enough that we need to fill again, or do we just go ahead and lightly sand that down so that it softens it, and maybe, you know, a little bit of a divot just gives it some character. But due to the sake of time, you won't be able to paint it if I do any filling on that, because it's going to take 30 minutes to dry. So now we're ready for your...
You're gonna wipe it off. Now, as far as cleaning this, should we use clean slate again?
No, once we use the clean slate, all we want to do is just take a dry rag and just literally dust that
Dust it off? Oh my gosh. Okay.
Okay.
So here's your brush.
We're ready to paint.
If y'all can tell, Gene is a perfectionist, and he wants it to be done right.
Did it right the first time.
That way we're giving these new pieces that were really built well new life. You need your black paint. And we're doing black because this week we have our color crush, and it's all about black. Is there enough in there?
Good. And then the neat thing about this is, although the paint appears to be a dark gray, when it dries,
it goes black.
The magic is it goes to a true black.
Well, and two, the nice thing about it is it's water-based. It's going to dry really quickly. It has a beautiful smell, so that way you can work on it inside. So there's really no grain in this that we can tell. So, but you're going to go up and down like you are.
There was probably grain at one time before it just all crystallized. There's some getting down, and I'm using the 1.5 inch angled brush because it allows me to get down in the crevices of that trim.
See how, guys, how he feathers back with this? He kind of goes back over it to kind of soften it out. Now, if you haven't used the new matte sealer, you're going to be amazed. I mean, it's really, really fabulous. I like doing things to the side of the drawers. I mean, like you could paint the sides of the drawers. You could use our stencils. You know, a lot of people even use these drawers. They buy them and they plant herbs and flowers in them. They drill holes in them. So we bought these drawers to be able to show you how to repair veneer. And come back and paint directly on top of it. So that way we don't have anything missing. It looks great. Where was our hardware?
Where?
Yeah, where did we put it?
It's over here.
I just wanted to show everybody as far as now. When you've got that hardware, what would you do to it?
Well, I'll clean it for one.
It is pretty. Now, what do we think this is? That's probably brass, isn't
Oh,
it?
yes. Yeah, that's just brass.
Can we put some clean slate on it? I'm just curious.
It would probably need more something like Brasso, a brass cleaner to be able to get any of that off. But
Lori says, excellent job, Mr. Jean.
thank you, Lori. See, it's not going to give you much without having some brass cleaner to that.
It's pretty, though.
Mm-hmm.
Just put it over here. I want to see what it's going to look like on our, yeah, we need to kick that up. I would probably take some steel wool. Now, can you see? So pretty. Oh, gosh, guys, isn't that cute? That looks so good. Can we show him the other guy that's his cousin, his brother? As far as coming back, guys, you want to make sure that you learn how to be able to repair the veneer, how to clean the piece. You see the crystallization that Jean was talking about on it, and to be able to clean that, go over it, and let me see the question. Can the new sealer, let me see, can the new formula sealer go over, you know, I had another person ask me this. Can they use the new sealer that's completely matte and put it over the old sealer so it goes flat? I have a concern about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I-
The formulations are
I would
are a
probably
little
come back
different.
on top of it with your one step and then come back on top of it. Yeah, but that's so fab, Jean. What a transformation. So pretty. Love this hardware. So great. So thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The master, guys. So, as far as being really able to learn and take your skill level of rescuing and restoring furniture, what we don't want to happen is we don't want you to go to these great places and find these pieces of furniture that everybody is going to walk away from when it's got missing veneer, when it's got crack, when it's kind of falling off. They're like, oh, I don't want to touch it. Here's your opportunity to get a piece of furniture for $20. And you can go back in, use these skills that Jean showed you today, and you can fix the piece and then go right back in, clean your hardware, and then paint it. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Have a great weekend, everybody. And remember, this is your turn to be able to enjoy the bragging rights. Let's rescue some furniture, and we'll see you at the estate sales. Have a great weekend. Sharing is caring. Thanks, guys.